Hey everyone, this is Cynthia, your host from Randomspiritpodcast. I hope everyone is doing well. This is a quick heads up on this week's episode. This is a huge trigger warning. In this week's episode, we go over self-harm and domestic violence. Candice goes over her story. This is her story. So, to anyone if that topic is triggering to you, it's extremely sensitive. I recommend you not watch this episode. These are sensitive topics that I am exploring with my podcast just because I absolutely am a huge advocate for people to go on and just share their story. And hopefully, this can help someone. So, once again, trigger warning. There is talk on domestic violence and self-harm. You can go on and pause the video here if this is going to be too much for you. But other than that, I hope you all enjoy this episode. Welcome, Candice, the holistic wellness educator and energy healer, to Random Spirit Podcast. Thank you, girl, for
Yeah,
connecting and showing interest in my podcast. I'm so excited.
yeah, I am too. So thank you for having me today.
Yes. Um, where do we begin? I just feel like what you do and just like your story, there's just like a lot to it. It's all about you, girl. So just go on and like let us know who you are, what you do, anything like in the background, you take the wheel.
Sure. So my name is Candice. I'm a holistic wellness educator and healer. I know I can't even say my own title today. Um, but anyways, and Reiki master. So I love really the education piece behind energy work, and I incorporate different practices into my healing methods. So I'm also a channel and somebody that just really taps into higher consciousness. And so I've been doing what is called timeline healing with clients, where we actually go into our past and really
Mhm.
heal and support ourselves so that we can then move the energy forward. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But so there's a lot of different ways that I incorporate practices in energy work.
Mhm.
But I primarily work with people who are in that like transition in life and they just know that they're spiritually connected, but they might have a disconnect within there, or they're coming out of something that's pretty tumultuous and they just need that support and love. And honestly, like most people come to me that have had some form of trauma, as I'll get into later, is that I am a survivor of domestic violence and abuse.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things, and I've had other things in my life happen that were very challenging. And so
Yeah.
my hope through my practice is to share the potential and possibilities that happen within healing, because I've seen it firsthand and I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought I would be in this place. And just a full disclaimer, so for anybody, like
Mhm.
this, could be like a little bit traumatic, and I'm sure you're going to
Trigger warning.
yeah, but I came out of a serious depression, like being hospitalized for an attempt to take my life with direct dialysis to my heart. So if anybody knows that, it's like the very serious level of like you came close. So in
Oh.
that moment was when I had to really shift out and recognize that I never wanted to be here again, but really like start doing the internal work. And it was the very first time I had taken a broader perspective of my life and been like, okay, I need to forgive myself, I need to heal, and I need to figure this out. And it's been a 10-year journey for me, but there is true hope and transformation when you're
Mhm.
willing to sit in the discomfort of the healing journey. And so that's a lot of what I try to help people realize through energy work is, again, the potential and ability to do anything in life and change the trajectory of your life.
Mhm.
But again, it always starts with you.
No, yeah. Girl, I have a lot of questions, okay? And if these are like dumb questions, I apologize. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, can you, and it's just so crazy I'm saying this, but like, can you define what domestic violence is? Because I feel like, I don't know, like, is it just like physical? Like, what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so for my personal experience, it was both the physical and emotional and very mental, draining of just my essence and my being. For me, what it looked like was a very controlling environment down to my financial situation. I didn't have my own cell phone, basically wasn't to leave the house unless I was like being taken
Yeah.
there. And there were other things like someone to, having me come to their job site to wait for them to be off work. So a lot of control, a lot of he was an alcoholic as well. So, and let me just back up. He had a lot of PTSD. So before like, really trying to dive into things, he was a paramedic and firefighter, saw a lot of trauma, so secondary trauma,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
does a lot unrecognized in different populations. So, like the police force, the emergency department, doctors,
Wow.
even lawyers to a degree too, because they're seeing all this vicarious
Hmm.
information coming at them. And anyways, and military as well. And so a lot of people that are in these high pressure environments don't really have a way of processing what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and what it's like the lowest part of our world that they get to see on a daily basis. And
Hmm.
so that's why PTSD it's so like we're just barely on the brink of
Yeah.
like helping people work through it. Either way, it's still not an excuse for
Hmm.
behavior to happen. So I do want to disclaimer that. But that was my reasoning for staying for
Hmm.
so like I was like, oh, well, I still see the good person inside, and I know that if you get help, then you'll be fine. And it just never happened. And unfortunately, there was a lot of, oh, I will end my life if you leave. And unfortunately,
Damn.
after we divorced, it was a couple of years after he did take his life. And that was another level of like,
I'm sorry, Candice.
it was hard then, and the way that I found out wasn't exactly the easiest because it was like literally through a Google search that I found out. And so it took me down a spiral for a minute, and I was able to really take a step back and like process everything because I was in a much better place. Like if it had happened before I did any healing, I'm not sure how I would have handled it. But because I knew that I had literally done everything I can, hello, that was the moment where I knew that, there was nothing else I could have done. And so again, with that environment, it can look like a lot of different things. And so it's really important to pay attention to those signs if you're seeing them. Like the biggest one I think many experience is the control and the control over many aspects of life. So
I am like, girl, you just smacked me with that. Wow, I'm so girl.
yeah, I get the same reaction almost every time, and it's
No, and you hold yourself so just, and you're a healer. It's just like I don't know what to say.
well,
Virtual hug.
it was really hard in the beginning. Like you're seeing the version of me that's
Yeah.
still healing,
Yes.
but in
Yes.
a better place. And I want to really preface that because I think that people that are like ready for healing and haven't quite gotten there yet, they only see the healed version of healers and don't realize that we're still on
Yeah.
and we're consistently evolving. All of us are. And again, like if that had happened at any day, like if I had found out when it happened, probably
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
that would have been a different like visceral reaction that I had. And
Hmm.
it did take me into not such a great space. It was really
Yeah.
challenging. And then the following year, it was like it just things get a little bit to deal with. And I think the hardest part is that, you just have to remember you can only control what you can control. And like for me, it was reaching out to my resources. Like when I very first started my healing journey, it looks a lot different than it does now,
No,
where I
yeah.
was in therapy and I was medicated for a while. And, it took me doing several things for myself to get to where I'm at. And again, going through that experience alone was something
Hmm.
that I don't wish on anyone. And it was what broke me down enough to to revive, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have a phoenix on my arm because my tattoo
Yes.
one that I had was of a phoenix rising because it
Hmm.
felt like I was being reborn. And in it, what it opened me up to was to realize that my entire life was set upon other people's like foundations and structures,
Hmm. Hmm.
expectations instead of what I wanted to live for. And so, not that again, I would never wish this on anyone. Had
No,
I
yeah.
not gone through that experience, I might not, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And it's like everything in our life has a weird purpose. And
Yes.
and I'm not ever trying to say that somebody has to like should go through this. So really want to like really
No, yeah.
but we do have a choice after we've gone through something like that to use it for something good when we're doing the healing work for ourselves. Because now I'm in a comfortable space to talk about it and to share about it and to walk others through it who are undergoing it. And they're like, yeah, I want to leave, but I have no money.
Hmm.
Or I want to leave, but I still care about him. Or I want to leave and I see the good person. Or I want to leave, but I have no support. And so those are the many different complexities, and there's so many more
Yeah.
um, that go into it. And so again, it's really about knowing that you can overcome something and
Hmm.
use something good going forward. It takes time though, and there's no rush on
It
it. And
does.
so things like that. And it's unfortunate what happened with him. And
Yeah, yeah.
I believe in like past lives and reincarnation. So I
Yes.
feel that for all the heaviness that his soul went through in this lifetime, hopefully he's in a much better space now.
The just wow. Girl, you have me like speechless. I just feel like you're just fucking amazing. I'm gonna tell you that 1,000 times just because of the fact of like I feel like when it's as heavy as you talk about and like you can see that you're in a different state of mind, you've done a lot of healing and I mean it's the truth, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I just absolutely love how you have, it's, I feel like forgiveness comes with like, perspective and shifting the perspective and like, it's just like a different mindset. And I'm just so happy that you're like, you've shifted that, right?
Mhm.
And I do believe that, things happen for a reason. You're just wise. I love your energy, girl. I'm just like, my jaw is dropped.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. How long ago did that happen?
So he took his life in 2020 and
Girl.
we were
Mm,
separated like 2016-ish. So
okay.
it's going it's been I guess it's been a little less, about 9 years. So 9 years of like working through the things.
No,
And
yeah.
yeah, because we were separated like the beginning of 2016. So, and it's like, but if I hadn't had the support and
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I didn't have family to support me, like my family was
Mhm.
not there to support me, and it was me. I had to support myself and
You're
really like
amazing.
pull my, well, but I got to that low place first, and
Hmm.
it was not easy. I was
Hmm.
literally like, I woke up strapped to a hospital bed and I'm looking around and I don't remember getting there. I have this
Yeah.
ginormous thing attached to me, and the nurse is like from the corner freaking out, like, don't
Yeah.
move. Like you
Oh,
can
wow.
picture your heart. And I'm just like, what is going on? And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I
You
nearly
woke up.
like I've got to figure this out. And unfortunately, a lot of people who go through domestic violence and like any form of that type of
Yeah.
abuse, whether it's physical or emotional,
Hmm.
mental, it's very natural to go towards suicide. There's so many that are survivors that have talked
Hmm.
about the same feeling of devastation and just desperation to want things
Yeah.
to. And, it was again in that moment. And I'm just fortunate that unfortunately he ended up in incarceration. So he was
Hmm.
away because he was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
trying
yeah.
because of all the things. And so, like, oddly enough to say, luckily enough, I was able to have that separation and go through that low point where I was like, okay, I don't want to be here. And then I started figuring it out slowly. I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to work more. I'm going
Hmm.
to go to therapy. I'm going to like really get my life together, save up the money I need, and move away. And like I said, it took me months. I didn't have a car for a little bit. Like there's like a
No,
lot of
yeah.
things that I
Yeah.
look and
Hmm.
I'm like, how did I? Sometimes you just are amazed at the things you do when you
Hmm.
just have to do it. And that's one of the biggest things I think for me has just been the knowing that I had to figure it out and like knowing that it was possible. And again, I wish that there were more uh programs and resources
Yeah,
available
yeah, yeah.
because I think it's such a lot of people just don't understand the financial hardship of trying to
Hmm.
get out of an abusive situation because most people, whether you're male or female, you're being controlled and manipulated by your
Yeah.
finances. And that's one of the biggest things for me. It was like I literally had no control over my life. And that's the hard part too, is that you lose
Hmm.
yourself over time. But it's possible. And like if you're in that situation and you need to get out, like there's opportunity for you once you do. It might take you some time. And it took me, God, I think like 6, 7, 8 months to just get finances together to get a vehicle. Like I literally had like
No,
nothing.
yeah. Wow.
It's, so but you can, like you can do all these
No,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
advice do you have for someone in, I don't want to say like the exact situation, but like what advice do you have for someone that's in that I'm in this relationship, it's like taxing, it's abusive, and I have no support. Like, what do you have any advice?
yeah, so when you're faced in that moment, a lot of it's about, first of all, knowing that you're worthy of more and knowing that no matter what they've said, you are worthy of more.
Hmm.
And really leaning into that belief in yourself that if you need to end things, that everything will align for you. It may not be picture perfect, and that's the preparation that we have to put
Yeah.
on ourselves is like to go into things knowing, hey, it might be a little harder, but it's worth it in the end. Because when we're holding on to, and this is anything, when
Yeah.
we're holding on to things that are not for us, we are blocking and preventing everything that's meant to be.
Hmm.
And this can go for a relationship, a job, a house even,
Hmm.
a location. So when we are just so fixated on the things that we have immediately because they're comfortable and they're what we know, then and
Yeah.
the other part to it is not just from a energy perspective, but from a brain perspective, like it's really challenging for us to get out of cycles unless we're really clear on what they are. And that's
Hmm.
because we naturally want things to be the same, not only from the energy resonance of like, this is my normal. It's about
Hmm.
recognizing what that normal has become so that you can take yourself out and say, okay, this is not okay. This is not normal. And recognize, like I had a chaplain say,
Hmm.
back then I was super scared to like get divorced and
Yeah.
because it was just I didn't want to. And she
Hmm.
goes, honey, the moment he laid hands on you, the moment that he talked down to
Yeah.
you, he broke this commandment. He did this, and you are not bound to
Mm.
that anymore. And that was like what I needed to hear. Once I heard you're no longer bound, it opened up everything. And it was like I just needed to hear that it was okay and that I was going to be okay. And So that would be my advice, is to know that you're going to be okay, to really prepare and plan like as best as you can emotionally. I don't know if like materialistic wise, like financials or anything, that's
Yeah.
really challenging to prepare for, but
Mm-hmm.
there are resources out there and available to help you in those situations. So they know this scenario and they know how challenging it can be. So use your resources. And yes, I wish that there were tons more, but there are still a ton of resources available. And so just know your worth and know that
Yeah.
you are worth so much more than any hardship that is like that. Because you're also, my therapist had told me there's this book called The Buddha's Brain. And
Mm-hmm.
in science, we know that people pick up where they left off. And so
Yes.
in relationships, it's even more dynamic because you have that intimacy and you have that bond. And so when you've become accustomed to how you're being treated, both from the recipient and the giver, that's how it's always pretty much going to be, unless you do like very, very intensive therapy. And my therapist is like, he would more than likely be better to someone else before
Yes.
he would be better to you, even if he were in a better place. And it just goes back to the brain and how it operates.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot more energy, effort to do that kind of shift. And so that's the other component, is just to know that it's not that it's impossible, but it is very much a challenge for somebody to ever treat you differently once it's gone on for a certain amount of time.
That's like some mind fucking like stuff. It's like
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, thank you for sharing that. That's true.
It is true.
That
Yeah.
that's you said that scientific.
hmm It's scientific and it's also energy. Like our
Hmm.
energy resonates at a certain vibration and our environment picks up on that.
Yes.
And so, again, it really takes just a lot of work and a lot of reprogramming for us to move through these things. And to do so as a unit, it's just different
Oh
because,
yeah.
again, it's got to be both parties being committed to making the change. And again, there's
Yeah.
just a lot that you have to, I'm not saying it's impossible, but
No,
it is
yeah.
just base. It's a lot more challenging.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Um, Girl, you're just leaving me like floored with all your knowledge. I had seen on Instagram but like I screenshotted it. I was like, oh my God, that looks cool. The audiobooks that you that you posted, I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I'm like into like scientific. Would you call like psychology scientific?
Oh yeah. So psychology is like all of the theories and the studies
Mm-hmm.
done. And I really enjoy learning what science has always been trying to prove. Because the
Mm.
last book that I read, this doctor, there's the last two books I've read, actually three, have been all
Yeah.
by doctors that are all pursuing the healing arts because they understand the way that the body works. So they understand energy, but they also are recognizing this in like brain studies, neuroscience. And so they, in this book, they were able to capture that, interestingly enough, people are born genetically with the desire for spiritual connection, and it's a
Hmm.
location in the brain. I can't quote it, but
No,
and
yeah.
essentially it's 30% genetic and the other 70% is your environment. Now, another interesting fact is that people that are predisposed for depression, anxiety, and
Yeah,
any
yeah, yeah.
balance in that way actually gravitate even more and search more and heal from spiritual experiences at a heightened level versus someone who has kind of like a baseline of life, which is interesting to me. I don't know why. I mean, I think what came to my mind was just resilience. Like it's almost like your soul knows that there's more, your soul knows that there's
Yeah.
something higher and connected. But it's interesting to see that they've been able to measure it. And so,
Hmm.
in my work, especially, it was so funny when when I came out of my spiritual closet. That was so it was like, I was like, okay, I guess I can do this. Um, but at first it was really challenging because I was like, oh, what if people think I'm just crazy? But I was like, no, this is what I experience. And I experience these really like connected moments and I
Mhm.
want to share about it. And like, it was again a challenge, but I always seem to find these books that confirm everything that I experience. I had another book that I read about and it was a doctor who grew up in an environment where she had a whole family of channelers. And that's what they did is like they all like, and they did like transcendental channeling where they go in
No,
and
yeah.
because there's different types of channels, and I didn't even really know that. Like, that's how much of a newbie I was to channeling. But it was just interesting that she found evidence in these different scientific studies that people
That's
do,
so cool.
and that we all can tap into it. It's really just about our comfortability. And one of the biggest things I tell clients is it's our intention. Our intention is what carries our energy forward. It's what carries our energy healing. Because we can intend for anything in life, and
Mhm.
it's really up to us on what that's going to be. Like when you say the words that you say out loud, you're intending for that in your
No, yeah.
brain picks up on that signal and confirms it in other ways. It's like you want to say that you're X, Y, and Z, it's going to confirm that as a truth because that's what it's designed to do. And energy
Mhm.
wise, resonating at that, and you're going to pull it in. So again, I like the bridge of spirituality and science because science has wanted to
Mhm.
prove spirituality probably for centuries, and they're able to do it. And it's like,
Mhm.
and I wish that they would put this more in the mainstream. Like we don't see any of these
Wouldn't it,
studies.
I know, wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, but they are out there and they've been doing this since like the 40s, like 40s and 60s, some of these.
Really?
Yeah, like they've been studying this forever, probably even longer than that. So I'm not really good at timelines and probably
Mhm.
because I believe in past lives. So I'm like, it's all the same. Um, but again, like they've been trying to figure this out for centuries. And it's just interesting that we're finally in a place where spirituality people are more receptive to it. And so when I can prove it and I can be like, look, the reason why I love rocks so much is because like I love crystals, but there's actually a science to it too. And it's like how they're formed and they're
No,
pressured or not
yeah.
pressured. And that's what creates the energy. It's energy. So it's like you can think I'm crazy, but it's true.
I have facts to back it up.
I can prove it.
Um,
It's
no, for real. So with your holistic healing, girl, talk more about that. So just like from what I've gathered, what just I know, okay, Cynthia, maybe Candice can define it. Is holistic healing a natural way where you don't have modern medicine?
so I do feel that medicine has its time and place in anyone's
Hmm.
life that needs it. Like I would never ever recommend somebody
Hmm.
like not go and do the things.
Yeah.
However, in my journey of learning about energy medicine and being able to understand more, we are able to heal the moment that we step into it, the moment that we want it. And it just takes understanding the root cause. Our body holds on to every experience that we've ever undergone until
Yep.
we process it. And there's, a reason why we work on ourselves, and it's so that we
Hmm.
don't manifest the disease when we're freely expressing how we feel, of course, in balance. Like we don't want to say everything to everyone all the time,
Yeah.
but when you're authentic, when you can
Hmm.
you can step into your power, when you can come from a grounded state of being with a higher connection, all of those encompass alignment. And when our body's in alignment, we don't tend to see disease. Now, depending on how long you have been rejecting or not dealing with things, that could mean how long it might take you to heal and recover. And that's one of the bigger things to recognize is like, I never want to minimize what someone is going through, whether
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
or an experience, because it's real and it's happening. I can say that they have had different cases where people have been able to heal from really large ailments. And my master, who I learned under, she actually worked with a client who was in oncology and would do the healing session before the treatment to help prepare the body to take in the medicine,
Oh,
and then do that
wow.
healing after to help integrate the medicine. And what that did is it supported the body in two ways. It gave the medicine that he was being given, but it also opened up his body to not reject the medicine. And so there's different cases.
Wow.
And I know of people who have done it completely holistically, where through medicinal, like herbs and things,
Yeah.
along with healing, have been able to heal the body naturally. I think environmentally, we're kind of in a iffy space
Hmm.
because our environment gives us so many toxins, unfortunately. So sometimes we do have to turn to medicine. I'm not huge on it. I think that that industry is not as heartfelt and not as
Yeah.
soul-led. So I'm not one to like, I don't run to the medicine cabinet every time I have something going on. I actually check in with my body first to say, okay, where is this actually coming from? Because the more you learn about your energy, the more you're able to recognize that an ailment is your body speaking to you and asking you to do something. It's like, I
Yeah.
need something. And sometimes it's I need attention, so like
Oh,
go to the
yeah.
doctor. And there's actually a practice that you can do where you sit in a meditation and you just go from, and it's better to have somebody writing this for you so that you can be really focused, but you can essentially go
Hmm.
your head all the way to your feet, asking your body, how do you feel? And you really want to come from the perspective of emotion. So I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling
Hmm.
held back. I feel as if I can't speak. These different things, when we ask our body those type of questions, then we can start to identify the pattern and say, okay, where is this starting? So
Yeah.
if I'm feeling as if I can't, like my throat's closed off and I can't speak, what's causing that? Was there a conversation? Was there a conversation in your childhood? Was there, a moment in your life where you were shut down and told you could not speak? So there are many layers to this too, but
Yeah.
it's all about finding the root of what's causing the ailment. And again, and of course, there's environmental factors that we have to take in, like what food are you eating? Are you drinking water that's good for
Yeah.
you? Things like that. But again, our body is like it's us, and it's
No,
it's
yeah.
communicates all the time. And so I would say that for me, holistic just means a bigger view and finding the root cause versus just trying to treat symptomatically with anything.
No, yeah. It's like, I mean, the way I can translate it is like you have like a quick fix that's temporary, and then you have that's interesting what you had said. I was having like severe panic attacks, and like I pulled it like out of myself just like to because I was thinking maybe I should go to like a psychiatrist, like I'm not okay in the head, but like it didn't feel right. And I just laid down and I would like boohoo cry, like, Cynthia, what's wrong with you? I would like talk to myself, like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how, it was back then. And then, yeah, just like, and then after, it was so fucking hard. I'm not a words of affirmation girl, but after, like, I would reparent myself and tell myself, Cynthia, I'm so proud of you. Like we don't know what this is, but I feel tension here. Like you feel anger, you're allowing it. Um, yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, no, and like release looks different for everyone, but
Yeah.
really, once we identify where the emotion is coming from and we honor it where it's at, that's how we can work through it because our emotions are there to present us again with something. And so when we suppress, and a lot of people my age, your age,
Yeah,
we grew up without like processing anything. And so it's only been
girl.
like what 20 years that mental health has been on the table to actually talk about. And so, and it's not that we need like a super elevated like, oh, we gotta talk about all the
No,
things,
yeah.
but we do need to be able to express ourselves and to understand and even empathize with our own emotions to where we're holding that tension of
Yeah.
this is how I feel, but do I want to stay in this energy of how I feel, or can I move through it and figure it out and be like, okay, new perspective,
Hmm.
repurposing this. So, and it's like there's people that spiritually bypass, and I recognize that where it's like, oh, I'm just going to meditate and things will be better. I'm very opposite
It
of that.
doesn't
I'm
work
like,
like
hey, if
that.
it doesn't work like that. If you just confront
Hmm.
it, and I don't say that lightly, like sometimes these are really hard, and a lot of my clients are in therapy as well too, because you sometimes you need multiple support systems when you're going
Yes, girl.
really big. And so, but when we confront these things and we're able to really just sit with it and recognize it and understand it, that's how we're actually able to move through it. And again, it takes time. And there's an and you get to a certain place in your healing journey where things will start to come forward, and it's not nearly as heavy. I wouldn't say that it's not challenging, but you can at least be with it and understand it, and it doesn't take everything from you. Sometimes it will, sometimes it's like, oh crap, I thought I was like all the way through this.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
thought we had worked through this, and here's another layer, and you don't want to do it, but you're like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Hmm.
But that's what helps you, and that's what actually makes your energy freed up. And then there's, of course, like we have different layers of healing, but I always start with people in this embodiment because we are here.
Hmm.
And so the more that we can get grounded in this lifetime, the easier it is to affect going forward. So,
What advice do you have for someone? Because like I see this a lot, and like, I do like chakra work and like stuff, and
mhm.
it's just like I see in like my clients, some of them that are just like we, bring up the trauma or like whatever. And then like how you said, it's like that quick fix, like, oh, let me just give it to um let me just give it to my spirit guides. Let me just like give it to God. Just like as simple as that. And then just like it I guess you could say spiritual bypassing toxic positivity where like they suppress it. Like it seems to me like they're so petrified. Like I don't know what is behind that, but it's like they're afraid of allowing their, I don't want to call it demons, but like their trauma to overtake them. And then we get into this depression and like they don't want to get um taken over by it. And like, what advice do you have for that person?
Yeah. So what came through was just power. So when you're
Hmm.
used to giving your power up, it's real easy to think that that's the solution. And sometimes these quick fixes are essentially the same repeated pattern of giving your power away. And it's, while it might not be recognized, it can be a form of, again, giving your power away so you don't have to actually deal with it. And it's not, and sometimes it's just really hard to go and to visit these things. But in doing that, you're actually allowing yourself to free yourself from it. And I remember this time, like an example, I had been working on a lot of things in my like childhood and all the
Hmm.
things. I never really do guided meditations because I'm super distracted person, but I was drawn to this one and I did,
Hmm.
and it triggered me in like a big way, but in a good way. At first I was like, she had asked, go to a place in your childhood where you felt safe. I was in bawling tears because I could not find a moment in my childhood where I felt safe. And I was just like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? Like, why am I crying? And I'm like literally bawling my eyes
Yeah.
out, upset and angry and sad and like feeling so many different things. And it was very triggering in the moment. But by allowing that to come through, I was able to realize I never felt supported as a child. That's a hard, heavy emotion to confront and to feel and to be pissed about.
Hmm.
But I found it and I was able to release it. And the fact that I sat with it and I gave myself the support I needed. I asked for higher guidance to come in and support me as the child that needed the support. And sometimes this takes a couple of sessions to do. I do a lot of this work
Yeah.
where we will find that moment and then I will start sending energy healing to that version of you so that you can start to feel the release and like the comfort. And but it takes acknowledging it first. And while it's uncomfortable and it's hard to do the work, it is
Yeah.
what gives you that freedom. And you deserve to have your power. You are,
Mm-hmm.
we are all a part of source. So giving it away is really just taking a part of you away instead of recognizing the connection and that divine connection of you are supported in this moment and we're going to work through this together. So,
Thank you for that. No, that power message and just everything that you said is just um big and like important, because it's just I feel like I feel like a lot of us are like awakening, and I'm trying to find nice ways, Candice, to say this.
I have to say nice
It's
things.
kind of
Like,
hard because it's like it's one of the things where it's like I don't mean to sound like a bitch or like fucked up, but it's just like you either you heal it or you don't, and you allow the revolving door, you know?
mm-hmm.
I don't want to like that sounded really bitchy. I
Oh,
apologize.
no. But that is the truth. Like the truth is we have cycles that come forward for us, and it's really up to us whether we're going to continue that perpetual cycle of being or if we want something different. Like there's a reason why I think it was what Einstein, don't quote me on this. I'm not great, but if you do the same thing and expect a different outcome, you're literally going insane. I mean, definitely paraphrase there, but I mean, think about it. Like when you do anything repetitively, you only get the same result. And so
Yeah.
if you're in that cycle and if you take on the victim role, not to say that we don't have victims out
Yes.
there, not to say that we haven't been victims, but when we take on this role, and that's all we allow ourselves to identify, it is
Hmm.
all we're energetically putting out there as well. So we will continue to pull in that energy of victim, and it will continue to happen because, again,
Yeah.
you subconsciously look for ways to confirm that. And then energetically, you're pulling it in anyway. So again, it's really a matter of perspective shifting that we have to undergo if we ever want to see things be different.
No, yeah, 100. You just called me out.
Yeah.
100%. No, because like I'm gonna admit I'm very self-aware. I take accountability. There's like areas of my life right now where like um I do tend to like go into victimhood, and like it's like I get stuck there and then I just but anyways, Cynthia's healing.
It's easy to do, and especially if
It
it's been
is.
something that has been like never ending in life. Like I know for myself, I went through so many different iterations of like, oh my God, like why is this like, can things get easier? And like it was just me filling my time and space. Now, granted, I had to do the things because I worked like multiple
No, yeah.
jobs, and but at the same time, like that's literally all my life was for such a long period of time. So I wasn't processing anything until like literally like my 30s. And so, yeah.
Not her calling me out. Anyways, everyone this year.
You're welcome.
Um, what like so like okay, what got Candice into the Reiki energy healing, holistic amazingness that you're doing?
Yeah, so I originally worked with clients on more of like life coaching and doing that, and it was great. I well, let me just back up. So I was originally went to college for early childhood development and special populations.
Okay.
I didn't finish my degree, so that is one thing to note. But during that time period, I was really interested in psychology and resonated so much with the concepts, but I wasn't quite aligned with everything they were saying. Like there was just a missing element. Same thing as growing up in a very Southern Baptist church. Like there was just a missing element that I wanted to
Yeah.
find because I've always been spiritually connected. Well, fast forward, energy had presented itself several times in my lifetime. In my
Hmm.
20s, I felt as if I could feel other people's energy and didn't really know how to really like label it or anything.
She
And
was always sidekick.
yeah,
Okay.
or like I would have things come through and it would happen,
Mhm.
like things like that. And didn't really pay attention. And so again, like in my life, these things were presented and like the seeds were planted. My mom, who was very much like very scientific growing up, she was
Mm,
a nurse practitioner and things like that. And so growing up, it was very much like science. And then she
yeah.
became a so, I mean, she still does all the things, but to see something different and to experience something different was interesting. And that was in my early 20s as well. So again, it was all planted, but it really came into fruition when I was on the healing journey itself. And I went and stayed at an ashram in Northern California where
What is
I,
that, if you don't mind me asking?
no, no, an ashram, and don't give me like technically what it
No,
is,
yeah.
but it's the one that I went to, it was a holistic healing center. So they taught yoga, they taught meditation, they taught
Oh, okay. Okay.
different ways of divination. And it was
Hmm.
like an all vegan, vegetarian,
Love that. Okay.
know, and they have a community that lives there, and most of them like pay to live there, but just like anywhere else, but they have
Hmm.
regular jobs and they do them. And then there's people that run the retreat themselves. So they have the monks and the brahmacharis, and it's very much a combination of different practices that they align. So it was the first time I had ever seen anybody have pictures of
Hmm.
different masters, like ascended masters. And so it was only
Ooh.
Jesus, and but they had different versions of, and they taught us about the different texts and everything. Now it wasn't in depth or anything, but what I did was karma yoga, where I went out there, worked, quote unquote, like it was like super easy things like helping like wipe the windows down or help set dinner out, like what you would envision going to Girl
Wow.
Scout camp and like doing these things. So the chores were very minimal. But in exchange, I got to pay just a little bit less and be there, which is great. And so I got to experience all of the benefits of being there. And again, it was like the first time I'd had silence. So you would eat breakfast in silence, you would be in silence the whole morning until they rang this bell, which was new
Mhm.
to me. I had never really experienced anything like that or practiced a day of silence where I was completely like, and you wear like a name tag so that people understand and recognize you're in silence so you don't feel like a jerk.
Mhm.
But it's like all about it's all about you listening, and what that opened my awareness to how we communicate not only to ourselves but to others about ourselves. And it helped me see like my automatic thoughts where I was, more apt to like interject and want to say something, but it wasn't something that was supportive for myself. It was more downgrading. And it was really
Mm.
interesting to learn all of these different things and to hear other people. Like that was my first time I really heard the words coming out of people. And it was like, wow, we really talk awful to ourselves. And so again, that experience planted the seed because it was, again, I was in a meditation and I just felt myself like expanding energy while I was there. And again, I just didn't have a label for it. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And fast forward, what finally brought me to energy healing was I came in touch with my own practitioner. I had known for like 2 or 3 years that I wanted to study shamanism, but it is a little bit more, I will say it costs a little bit more to,
Okay, girly, I see you.
so I do have roots in that, so I do know that eventually, like, I will learn more about it. But it's definitely like the programs and everything are much higher priced.
And yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I resonated with my master, and so it's like, okay, I want to learn. And what I've come to learn is that while I studied Reiki and I practice very similar techniques, like I keep the what do I want to
Mhm.
it's you keep the integrity of the practice, but you
Yes.
your own method and your own way because we all connect in our own sense, in our own essence. And what like really just opened it up was just being in the right place at the right time. And I was helping launch a yoga studio at our last duty station, which my husband's in the military, so we're kind
Yes.
of, but it's I was launching the yoga studio and I had time to like really start opening myself up to study and recognize that I really love this work. It was like the final missing piece of what I had been working with clients already about that helped me support them as they do the internal work. And so that's really what brought it full circle. And I spent a long time working on my own energy first. Like I did not jump right into it. Like it was funny because like I waited like 9 months before working with anyone.
Mhm.
And I mean, minus like, my family and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But the moment that I opened it up, and all I did was post a story on my Instagram, and it was like, hey, I have these sessions. Like 20 people reached out to me, and I was just mind blown.
Girl.
And so and back then I was doing really only in person, and now it's funny, it's the complete opposite. Now I do all virtual. So
Mhm.
it's just a really rewarding experience to get to see people finally feel that support that they've needed. And most of us have needed it like our entire life. And so it's really great to be able to gift people that awareness and
Yes.
open their own gifts. One of the things I know and recognize that part of my mission, part of my job is to help people awaken to their own spiritual gifts so that they can step into their alignment, which is again just really beautiful.
What drives you to continue the work that you do?
Just the way that it feels and the way that people experience such great transformation. Like, if I could describe what it's like to tap into higher source energy, it is like a love and a support that I had
Hmm.
never existed. And it's warming and it feels like everything that we need in this world right now. And it's like, I need to get this message out to as many people as I can and help people understand that it exists and that we're able and that we are so supported. And yeah, what keeps me going is knowing that one person at a time is all it takes. And I'm not meant to heal everyone. I'm meant to help where I can and then get people that are ready to help others there too. So
You're gonna hear my son in the background. I am so sorry, girl.
that's all good.
But
That's
he's
good.
like thinking it. So what did you want to be when you grew up? And did you ever just think about like where like you would be doing what you were doing? Because it sounds like you grew up in a Baptist church household.
So my upbringing, both of my parents worked a lot. My mother was an overnight
Mm.
nurse. My father waited tables, and so pretty much
Okay.
did I know, right? Very opposite energies. But they anyways, so I didn't see my parents a lot. I was with babysitters or my grandmother, who was the one that went to church all the time. So I grew up in that environment and really just kind of grew up like I would say I grew up really fast. Like I just kind of had to figure it out. And I really enjoyed the arts, and I was in choir from second grade all the way until my junior year of high school, and loved to draw, loved to write, and loved to teach. Like, you know how you play house and you do teacher. If people do that anymore, I have no idea. Um,
I used to do that when I was like, I used to play mom.
Yeah, I always wanted to be the teacher. I never wanted to be the mom. I wanted to be the teacher, which is so funny. Like, I always, and so our poor little Yorkies, I did play mom, everyone, like with my sister and stuff, but
Hmm.
like we had these two Yorkies and we would wrap them up like babies. Oh my gosh, this poor things. They were so good though. And I like literally would bundle them up. But anyways, like going back, it's like I always thought I would be a teacher or an author, and those are the things that really like came to me. Which it's so funny because like I never would have imagined this would be what I'm doing. But at the same point, I feel like when I look back, I was doing things like meditating and didn't realize it. I was doing things like visualizing,
Really?
didn't realize it. I definitely sensed beings and didn't realize, like I was terrified though because of like too many movies
Hmm.
all back then, and of course my religious upbringing, so it took me a lot of work to get through that. Even to this day it's kind of funny because I'll have loved ones come in during sessions every once in a while, and while I don't see them, I will either get a divine message from them, or I just know that they're there to support the person. And it's funny because I told the universe, I was like, okay, if you want me to do this work, that's totally fine. I don't want to see anybody.
Period. Same.
I was like,
Don't freak me out. I'm
I'm
out.
good. I don't need to be spooked, but I will do the work. Um, but that's the other thing too that I want to share is like when you're doing this work, you have more control than we give ourselves credit for. People are always afraid to tap into their spiritual gifts because of those stigmas. And it's like, yeah, but you have a choice. Like we have a choice of how much we want to connect, how it looks, what we do. And the beautiful thing is sometimes your healing is just the conversations, and not just, but like the conversations that you're having every day, because that is part of healing. Healing looks so different from person to
No,
person, and that's the
it
best part.
does. And just like, I'm just gonna add this, just speaking to you right now, and then just like this interaction is healing for me.
Oh, good.
It genuinely is. So what's the most challenging thing about the work that you do?
The challenging thing I think is usually it's the first session for people that's their challenge, which makes it harder for me too, meaning
Hmm.
I know that it can be a lot going into sessions. And like sometimes that's the hard part is at first it was making everyone cry. I will say at first I had a really hard time getting over the fact that people would walk into my room and they would just start tearing up. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I make everybody cry. But I then realized that it was just them feeling so at peace and so supported
You
in
do
that.
have that. You
Oh,
literally have that like mother, the Pisces, like you have it, girl. You
love
have
it.
it.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part is like, and then, once you know that your client is ready to learn, it's really about then having that conversation of, okay, are you ready to do this for yourself? Because that's one of the things that I really try as a practitioner. I never want someone to be so dependent on me that they're not seeking their own healing. And I still work with people, like I have my own energy sessions, and but I also do like all most of my energy sessions. Like I have like would call them tune-ups. Like you go once a month. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a massage. You get them. I mean, I haven't had one in forever, but anyway, thing. Like you can get in that period of where you're healed and you're ready to take it on more for yourself, which is so empowering. And I love having that conversation. It's like it's yeah.
What, okay. Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to get into the um energetic, holistic, like life coach, just like the work that you do? Do you have
Yeah.
any advice for anyone that wants to like do that?
Yeah, just get started. Find the
Just do
teacher.
it.
Yeah, find the teacher that's like when you're called to do this work, there will be so many signs. Pay attention to the signs, pay attention to what resonates, pay attention to the people that come into your lives. When you're ready for something, it opens up in such a big way when we're ready to receive the message. And like for me, I asked for a very specific message when I was going into wanting to be a master. So master level, there's 3 levels of Reiki. The first is all
Hmm.
about the self, and second level is you're becoming a practitioner, you're working with others.
Okay.
And then the third level is you're a practitioner working with others, and then you can also teach others. And it really, the biggest difference is being ready to do that and wanting to do that.
Yeah.
I do not gift anything to anyone that they don't already have. All I do is teach you and awaken you to what you have, to the potential inside. And so, which is a little different than other people might word it, but to
Yeah,
me,
girl.
and I'm not anything special. I'm literally here just to help. And so, again, like when you're in that space of being ready, you'll know, and it will present itself so easily. For me, again, I forgot that I was going to tell the story, but I was where we were in Virginia. We had a little walking path that came down to the water. It was so divine, like perfect. And every once in a while, we would see a deer, not often, but every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, universe. if I'm meant to do this, show me a deer at the beginning of the path. And I was like very specific. I was like, I just need to see the deer because I saw a deer the first time. And
Yeah.
I have another story that I could tell if you want me to. But anyways, deers are very like symbolic about spiritual connection for me, for many
Hmm.
reasons. And sure enough, we were going down and it was right there at the beginning of the path. And we hadn't seen them like all season. We were literally about to move. So it wasn't
Oh
like
my God.
that I had asked for that specific sign and it came forward and it was like, you are wise, you've got this, like you're ready. And so while I didn't do it like right away because we were moving, I
No,
did it
yeah.
the next month. And so when you're ready, the signs will be there. It'll guide you. So just find the right
Give
person.
me the
Yeah.
sorry.
Find the right
Give me
person.
the other story that you have after you finish. I'm
So
sorry, I'm like interrupting you.
no, no, all good. Sometimes you just have to. With the story with the deer, I would at the same ashram, there was a little, we called it Lotus Lake, and it was a
Okay.
quarter of a mile, and it was so beautiful to watch. I didn't know how lotuses work, but apparently they're kind of similar to sunflowers in that they follow the sun. And so we did this
Oh.
one meditation where we watched them open up, which was really cool. But essentially, all of the animals there were very calm. And it was like, I literally, when I first got there, because I wasn't like in the awakened state I'm in now, I was like, did they drink the Kool-Aid here? Like, what's going on? I was literally like, this is weird. Like, people are way too happy. What is going on? And then, just saying. The truth be told. And so but even the animals there were just of a different energy. And so it was the first time I'd ever been around deer where they didn't run off. Like they literally just sat there and ate off the tree and would like chomp while looking at you. Like, are you doing anything? Like, go on with yourself. And I'm just like, what? And so one morning I was running and I came up and all of the herd had come down to the water. And the path is only like 2 people wide. It's not very big. And I was like, well, obviously I quit running, but I was like, do I just walk forward or do I go back and like walk the other way? Because it was just a circle anyway.
Hmm.
And I was guided to walk straight through them. And I was literally like side by side with these ginormous animals. And again, they were just kind of looking at me like, are you done? Did you get your view? We're ready to.
Oh my
But
God.
it was like the coolest thing I'd ever experienced in my entire life. I was like, I cannot believe I just did that. And I like got back to my cabin and was like, whew. But it was such a serene moment. And it just reminded me that we're all connected and that whatever we intend will be. And it was like, I just knew that I was safe. And it was like, anytime I want to know the
Wow.
right path and safe, that the deer is like one way I know. So.
Oh my gosh. I think that is just like so just like beautiful, and I can understand the whole because like I grew up in a household where like I wasn't safe either. So I can tell you right now, just like speaking, if your girl was not suppressing, I'd be crying. Okay. Um
Oh.
but like it's like that, that safety net that, and it's interesting, not really going to talk about it, but like I had a therapy session before this with my therapist and I was like in this like why victimhood, right? Just like why, she's like change your perspective, I'm like how, and just like some things that you had said, it God is talking to me through you, so
Mm.
thank you for that and the connection that we have. It's
Yeah.
um
Oh,
there's some past life shit here, Candice.
yeah. Absolutely.
Love it.
Well, and like the randomness of us coming together again, and I've said this to a couple of people here recently because I'm never on a certain platform, shall be nameless. But there's groups on there, and there's like more,
Yes, girl.
and I'm like, and I just happened to see some you post about like, hey, needing guests, and I was like, doop, and I put in my information, and that's that divine intervention and divine messaging too. I know that for me as a channel, like a lot of the messages that come through are from higher source and from other
Yeah.
higher self. Like so in a session, what typically happens is a couple of minutes before people hop in, I will, obviously I set my space and clear it and have it set up. But the bigger thing is that I'm connecting with their higher self, and I'm asking what information needs to come through for this person. How can I best support them in their healing session? And I'll pull a couple of cards and I'll look at them, and I'll start to just automatic write, and I will write out whatever they need to hear.
Yeah.
It so far hasn't been off. Like there's it, and it's
No,
so funny
yeah.
because every time I'm like, is this like really what I need to say? And it always makes sense to the person. And so, like we're all so divinely connected, and that's the beautiful part of coming together is like, yeah, we get really
No,
healing conversations.
100%. I feel like I'm not going to talk too much about my situation, but in the environment that I was in, it was just like very difficult. There was like no connections, and I'm like a Virgo. I like quality time, stuff like that. And I've come to learn like, changing the environment, how there's, instances of just like if I was in the environment that I was before, it would have never came like how you and I connect. It would have never came. And
Right.
victimhood, there's still some victimhood here, but it's just like this just this like connection that I've always like wanted, and it's like there was blocks, right? Like how you had said. And now that I like, did the work, changed the environment, it's like abundance not coming in the way that Cynthia wants it, but it's coming in the way of this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And in different ways too. Different opportunities. And I just need to tell my Virgo self to get my head out of my ass because
I love
you
that.
know it'd be like that, but absolutely do feel like it's just and like I guess like another message for the collective, whatever the fuck it is like changing environments is just fucking huge. And like what you said when you say that there's an environment can block your blessings, and you literally don't know until you make that move. And then I mean ever since, I feel like my life has been just so flowy and intuitive, and there's abundance thrown at me, and I'm just like, what? Huh?
Mhm.
How? Why?
Absolutely. Yep. And that's the part of it is it's really hard to see it when you're in it, like for anything, anything. And, it doesn't matter what anyone else says to you until you experience it and you feel the weight lifted, the energy lifted, and the energy shift. Like it's huge. It changes everything. So,
No, it literally does. Last question I'm gonna ask, girl.
sure.
Even though I feel like you said it 1,000 times, but you're gonna do it again. What is your absolute favorite thing about the work that you do?
Hmm. My favorite thing are the connections that I make. And again, it's seeing people open up. There's like a two-part because it's my favorite part is seeing people open up to themselves and really be able to recognize and love themselves, which is such a hard phrase for so many of us to say or really embody, and helping them redefine that for themselves. Because again, a lot of us live with these external like markers, like it's almost like driving in traffic. Like we have all the directions, we're told exactly which way we need to go, we can't go. And, we go through life like that for so long until we finally come to a place where we're like, you know what? I'm gonna take that U-turn. I'm gonna do this
Let's
differently.
go. That's me.
And like like you get to a place where you finally recognize that like all these words, all these labels, all these things, they don't mean anything to you. And you have to really build that definition and understand what does it actually look like for me to feel loved, to love someone, to receive love. And yeah, again, my favorite thing is seeing people open up to this new awareness and connection with themselves because it's a relationship they didn't realize they needed to work on.
Have you ever had a client like come to you, and they're just like, it's like, yeah, like they want help, but like they're so closed off. And then
Mhm.
like it takes a while for them to open, but then like they do end up opening, and then like that feeling that you're describing, that's just like it's my
Mhm.
favorite thing. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and especially a lot of people are closed off whenever they first.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that are like they've been down the healing road, so like they just love the energy work, which is two. There's two different people, right? There's like people that are
Yes.
at different stages, and not that there's only two, but and so coming in closed off, it's again, it's that almost like that hermit energy where it's like I've just never felt safe outside of my own shell to then be able to even open up to what's inside the shell. And so
Mhm.
yeah, getting to see that click and that change, but it takes consistency. I will say that I've worked with people where it's like if you don't show up for yourself, things just don't change. And they can't change if you're not ready. Yeah, I haven't had to not work with someone because they weren't fully ready, but I know that it was like the brakes got paused and, it wasn't like a continual, like, hey, we'll do a couple of
No,
sessions.
yeah. Hmm. Okay. Okay. All right. We're at the end. We're at the end of the episode. I pulled cards for you, girl. I pulled cards for you.
Love it.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this is like a little mixture because it's like it's a mixture of like a collective message and what you've done, and just like more like reiterating and also messages. It's a lot. Okay, Candice, it's a lot.
It's
All right, girl.
okay. You feel
You're like,
like
I'm
it's
here
good.
for
I
it.
feel I get it. I
It's
understand.
a lot. Okay. So, first off, and this is just like coming from like your spirit team and like whatever it is that's on the other side, it's just like this pride and this like this joy and this love and this happiness that I know that you feel with like your spirit team, but it's just like reiterating it because we have the card of beauty.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. We
Yeah.
have the card of darkness. We have a little darkness, which we all
Mhm.
have. And then we have the card of peace. And this is from the Moonology deck. No, the Queen of the Moon. Anyways. So, and like the way that it came out, I just like literally, it's like we all have this beauty within us. And um we don't see it or whatever. So then we come to Candace and we book a session. And it's like, we come in with this darkness, but you help people find that beauty within themselves, which then, and I do generally feel it's like everything you have within yourself, um, everything you seek outside of yourself, you already have within. And then that comes like with the peace. And I just like, I'm gonna like thank you 1,000 times because I feel like the way that you approach it and how you're not like, I'm the best one in the world and this is the only way to heal. Like, there's a lot of people that I come across that are like that.
Really? Wow.
And you don't give that vibe like at all. And
Mhm.
your guides are just like you embody this like peace, you embody like the divine feminine. And thank you from like the spiritual side, and then like thank you from the materialistic 3D world that we live in. We need more of Candace. Sprinkle it, girl, sprinkle it. I don't necessarily, I'm in psychic mode and the conversation feels familiar. I don't know if we spoke about this the when we had spoke previous to this, but I'm seeing I'm seeing community and I'm seeing connection. Um, I don't remember. Were you working towards or thinking about like having a community of like women,
Mhm. Mhm.
like a group? Like have you done that already?
Not yet. It's in the works though. It's something that in 2025, like I'm getting my ducks in a row. I'm actually just trying to figure out the day, like what day to host once a month, what time, all the fun things. Because I do want to bring together, and there are going to be retreats that I'm putting together. Now that is
I see
something.
that. Hmm.
Um, And the bigger thing too is like bringing a group of women together to really like continue the process of support and healing and all of that. So,
Okay, because we have like the search, right? This is for my Gaia deck. We have the search, and I feel like that's just like the collective of like the women or just like the feminine energy that I see you like working with. Definitely, I feel like something's brewing. And honestly, Candice, I feel like and maybe this is like future because I'm seeing where it starts small, but it's gonna be a thing, girl. It's gonna be a thing. And it makes me wonder if in the future you're gonna dip into like the shaman. Is that how you pronounce it? Shaman, the shaman stuff? Because it's giving the vibe that you literally like told me about that like I don't know if it's like that center, that like facility
mhm,
like it's giving that vibe where this creation this flame, this light bulb that I'm seeing that's like being lit within you.
mhm.
He wants love.
It does.
That's what I'm seeing, Candace.
Wow, I love it.
And go on and let everyone know where we can find you. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but just like, where we can book with you. If you have like any programs or anything that you're gonna be launching, let us know, girl.
Yeah. Well, and for anyone that's listening, I will share a code with you that'll give them 25% off. It's good until December 31st. And it's good. You can use the sessions, anything that you book between now and then, it can be used into the first couple of months of the year. And I have different, I always have like an initial session and then the follow-up sessions. So I am a practitioner on heal.me, which I love the platform. It makes it super easy for you to book, for you to see what I offer, to like do all the things. I'm very active on both Instagram and LinkedIn. So if you're like, depending on the vibes that you are, like I'm very much both places. Instagram, you get a little bit more of me and like I try to share the behind the scenes, like my actual life and all the things. And so I'm Candice underscore Elizabeth.co on Instagram. And then just my name, Candice Vandertholen on LinkedIn. But again, I will share the information with you and give you that discount code. And I'm excited because and I want to preface this too, is that I have an offering. So let me just back up. I donate a portion of all of my proceeds from my healing business to a nonprofit that helps support women that are women and children who are coming out of domestic violence. And
Wow.
it's a 100% nonprofit in Virginia.
Hmm.
It's called Enough Cries. And she's also a survivor. And this woman does
Yeah.
amazing work within the community. She is a volunteer assistant when there are rape victims. Like she goes and she sits by them, like while they're trying to go through the examination.
Yeah.
She also supports, again, women that are coming out of domestic violence and their children, like get resources. Like she just did a Thanksgiving dinner drive and things like that. And so it's a very small nonprofit, but again, a portion of it goes to her as well. And so, first, thank you to anyone who their healing also supports others in their healing. And so there's that. But then I also have an offering that is a lower cost option. And I say it's a pay it forward option because I know that you do have to invest something for yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to take it seriously. But I try to offer that so that it's not anything that should feel shameful or embarrassed. I've been there where I've needed support and help. So I have that offering that is there as well. And I encourage people that are in that place where they like really want to do the things to book that session. And I call it pay it forward because I truly believe once you go through your own healing, you'll then be able to pay it forward to the next person. So that is my little spiel there. And I'll be doing some trainings this upcoming year for anyone that's interested in learning how to do Reiki. I do all three levels. The 1 and 2 are done. They can be done the same weekend, or they can be split up. That's completely up to the person. But and your readiness, like you don't run into working with people just because you do the second level. But anyways, and so that's all coming in this next year. I've been training clients. I'm just going to make more regular occurrences for offerings like that. So
Do you offer like just online or do you offer in person? Like, what does that look like?
So right now I offer all online for my healing sessions. I do, if somebody wants to do in person, I can do it. Just currently I do all online, but
Okay, love that. All right, Candice. I'm so excited. Um, I'm so excited to air this. Anyways, thank you again, and I'm gonna go on and pause it. Adios to anyone that is listening.